Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our monthly Leadership Basic Training. My name is Dadra Driscoll. In addition to being a travel agent, I am also a member of the Maxwell Leadership Team. I'm excited to be sharing with you and continuing on our series on the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by my friend John C. Maxwell. So we've been covering one law each month in this series. And so this month, we are going to be covering the law of the ladder. But law number 9, the law of the ladder, says character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Now, often people focus on personal growth and not as much on character, and character really and truly is the foundation. If success comes too quickly and you've not built your character, you'll often have issues, crisis, scandal. As we go through this training, we'll talk about some examples perhaps that are big headlines, but if you look at most of our leaders, whether it be political, spiritual, leaders in business, when they have scandals, the usual root is a character issue. The majority of the time, it can be traced back to a failure in the area of character. So as we talk about leadership and the law of the ladder, we're going to be talking about how important it is to build upon your character as a leader. So we are human beings, not human doings. Because again, it's not based upon your success, it's based upon your character, which will help determine your level of sustained success. So ambition without guidance creates tyranny. Ambition without guidance creates tyranny. Have you ever been in a situation with a leader who is overly ambitious, but perhaps hasn't developed? And it's a horrible situation, especially in the workplace. If you're in a situation where you have a supervisor, perhaps who has been promoted faster than their character can sustain, it's a horrible situation to be in. The raw value of character, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, but to be a success, you have to think like a success. Because again, as I mentioned, often when we look at the kinds of failures that hit the headlines, most of the time, if you really trace back to the root of the problem, it's a character issue. It's not necessarily that, they didn't have the tools to be successful in their chosen area of business. It's usually a personal failing. So as a leader, it's important for you to take a moment and consider, what are your core values? What principles do you hold true? Because once you can really pinpoint those things, temptation and things that come, you already have a moral compass. I'll use that phrase. I had a particular job opportunity at one point, and I was coming in behind the previous leader who had held that role that I was in, had embezzled money. And it was really, something, because for me, being the next manager that came in after that situation, everything I did was under a microscope because of the failure of the previous leader. However, one of the reasons that I was chosen for that particular position was because the supervisor knew me from other situations, and she indicated she trusted my character. She knew that she wouldn't have to worry about that same issue with me. So one thing I tell you, as a leader, you want to be the type of leader that those that you lead feel that they can trust you. That's part of the value of your character. People who know you, what do they say about you? What do they believe that you value? What have you demonstrated as your core principles, your core values? Because those kind of things are going to really determine your level of sustained success. Some things are just not non-negotiable. Are you honest? Often leaders who have shortcomings or things they don't want to admit it because they believe it will be viewed as weakness. However, the people that you lead, it's worse if you mislead them into thinking that you know something that you don't, and then you can't deliver, than it would have been to simply say, I don't know, but I'll research and find out and get back with you, or let's figure it out together. Those are much stronger leadership positions than misrepresenting yourself or lying. So we talk the raw value of character. Again, it's the kind of thing that people are going to assess and maybe not say anything. They're going to be observing. When people want to decide if they want to join your team or if they want you to be the one to book their trip and travel or whatever business you're in, they're assessing your character silently. They're trying to determine, are you trustworthy? So that also can spill over to things that you post on your social media, how you comment on certain kinds of things. People are looking at all of that and they're making assessments about your character. But as we noted, most leadership failures are character failures. I want you to think in the last 10 years, pick a name, pick a person who was in a notable position who failed. And then think about it. What was the reason or the root of the failure? The overwhelming majority of the time, it's going to boil down to an issue of character. Were they greedy? Were they perhaps involved in extramarital situations? Were they stealing money? Were their integrity called into question? The majority of leadership failures are character failures. So it's always important as a leader to understand where your character strengths and weaknesses are so that you know what to focus on and what to work on. So let's talk about turning your pain into gain. For those of you who were on our call last month, we talked about the law of pain, but as each of these principles build upon one another, your character matters. If you focus more on the inside than the outside, you'll find yourself in a good place. What are the things that I need to work on? There's some things that are not going to be tempting to you if it's something that you already have a strong character footing in. But it might be something else that's more tempting to you if it's an area that you're weaker in. And so focusing on the inside is important and being honest with yourself about it. I joke with people because I bake. I love to bake and I bake for people, but I make it a decision to not bake the kinds of cakes that I really, really like myself. because I don't want to be tempted. So, not to say that I don't like the things I bake, but I'm saying like my favorite, I don't bake my favorite for myself because I'm single. And if a cake disappears in my apartment, there is no one to blame for it but me. So I save myself so I don't bake my own favorite cake for myself. Very rarely have I done that. If I do it because I'm taking it somewhere else. It keeps me safe that way. But again, it's about figuring out what are the things that are strong in your character and what are the things that are weak in your character. And how do I work on those inside things? Because the inside victories are going to precede the outside victories. Once you conquer it on the inside, it will blossom and manifest on the outside. And our inside development is totally within our control. So, again, as a leader, it's important for you to know what those things are and then set a course for working on them because you absolutely can become better at them. Most external failures aren't things that just happen all of a sudden. They're things that happened over time, temptations that were left unchecked and addressed. And then later on, eventually, a person, I have a ministry background, and we tell people, you didn't just fall into sin like were walking and there was a hole and you fell in it. Things happen over time. So it's important to recognize where the areas of your character are that need strengthening and then work on them. So your character matters. In addition to character, people matter. This one in our line of business especially is important because you don't want to lose sight of the members of your team. You don't want to lose sight of your clients and customers because they are the ones who help sustain your success in business. So we know that the golden rule says that we should do unto others as we would have them do unto us. But it's important to keep that in the forefront. How am I treating my team? Am I treating my team the way I would want to be treated? Am I treating my clients the way I would want to be treated? And conversely, if there's situations developing between you and your customers or you and your team, it may be a result of how you're treating them. And as a leader, that's an important assessment to make. For me, in dealing with other leaders and helping them do assessments, often when I listen to people and they tell me about their business or I observe things that they do, and then I listen to their complaints about their staff or their team or their clients even, I can often point back to behaviors in them that fostered that kind of reaction. As a leader, the way that you treat your team and your clients always comes back to you. So it's important to realize that people matter and we should always follow the golden rule. Next, passion matters. How passionate are you about what you're doing? You have to make a decision that I will only teach what I believe. When you're encouraging your team, they're going to tell how genuine it is. Your passion is going to come through. If you're not passionate about it, you can go through the motions, but your team is definitely going to pick up that something isn't exactly matching. Something's a little off. So you want to always be sure that you believe in what it is that you're talking about. Now, one thing I will say too, as for those of you who promote trips and travel, you'll find that the type of travel that you're passionate about will be easier for you to sell because you can tell people how wonderful it is. If you are an avid skier, you can talk about ski resorts and that passion will come through. If you're a cruiser, if you like going to all inclusives, if you are a person who is passionate about a particular destination, when you talk about those things and share about those things, it comes across different than things that were just, say, for instance, a training that you watched and you really don't, you're just throwing it out there to see if it sticks. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to where your passions lie and putting your efforts behind those things. That way, as a leader, if you can narrow down and figure out what's the right niche for you, you will see your business multiply. You'll also attract people who want to do those same things. So again, if you're looking for business partners, you want to be able to attract the kind of business partners that mirror your character and passion. And they will be attracted to you because that likeness will shine through. According to John Maxwell, with one insignificant exception, the world is made up of others. How we treat other people is what it's all about. It's going to be more about how we treat others than ourselves. So let's continue on because perspective matters. Here's where you say, I will value humility above all virtues. I will value humility above all virtues. Have you ever worked for someone who was arrogant or puffed up? Someone who just thought they knew everything and that everyone else was beneath them? Those kind of leaders are difficult to follow, and people won't stay in that kind of environment for very long. The first opportunity they get to shift, they will. So how humble you are is going to be very important. Be teachable. Realize that even though you are the leader, there are still things that you can learn from your team. We never want to reach a point where we believe we are beyond learning. There's always more to learn, no matter what level you are on. Even when you obtain whatever that goal is, if you want to be $1 million booker, after you've booked 1 million, there's still going to be things to learn. Perhaps you want to be a platinum consultant. Once you reach a platinum status, there's still more to be learned. So it's important to be teachable so that you can help keep things in proper perspective. It's also important to realize that everyone has weaknesses. None of us are perfect. None of us. So again, it's not necessarily a negative thing to admit that you have a weakness. Once you realize you have it, then you know what you need to work on, but also realize that you don't want to be overly critical on your team's weaknesses because you have weaknesses as well. Your goal is to help them strengthen their weaknesses. Also, when it comes to perspective, it's important to hold a beginner's mindset. Always remember the things that made you start. What were the things that you were passionate about to start your business? Because over time, sometimes we lose sight of that. If you can keep that beginner's mindset, that grind that you had when you first started, it'll help you be humble. Be willing to serve others. What we do is a service to others, whether you are leading a team and you're serving them in that way regarding building of their team, Or you're booking travel for someone and you're serving them through the service of booking travel. You want to have a servant's heart and be willing to serve others. You don't want to reach a point where you go and sit on the throne as the king or queen of your empire, and you want everyone to turn around and serve you. You always want to keep that mentality of helping to improve other people. Then you want to be grateful. Our life is wonderful. Even if your life is not perfect, you still have a good life. And there are people that would trade places with you in a heartbeat just to be where you are right now. But it's important that as we recognize that even if my business I didn't reach the level I wanted to reach by this point in the year, or I haven't sold as many trips as I wanted to sell, I'm grateful for what I have done, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to keep doing what I'm doing. All of these are things that help you keep the proper perspective in your business. Your character, again, is going to be the foundation that supports your success. So if you lose sight of continuing to keep your character built, that foundation is going to be weak and crumble. And the last thing you want to do is have it come crashing down around you. So also faithfulness matters. I will strive to finish well. Are you faithful to your business? Are you faithful to the members of your team? Are you faithful to your clients? The stronger your character, the greater your growth potential. So if you continue to strive to be a person of integrity, you strive to be a person who lives by your core values. And again, knowing what those are is important. That will cause you to strengthen your character, paying attention to what those core values are and working on them every day to be better. And being faithful to yourself. Don't give up on your own dream. And don't give up on the dreams of those that are entrusted to you. While you're on this call taking this in, these are nuggets that you can go back and share with the members of your team and help them do the same. And as all of you grow together, the overall organization will be stronger. But again, the stronger your character, the greater your growth potential, because your character is the foundation that your growth is built up out of. It's the soil. Let's connect. You can follow me by visiting DadraDriscoll.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Dadra Driscoll, as well as my YouTube channel, MMI Management. I have a leadership playlist where you can follow along.